You know that multi-tool that's good for almost any job? It just works, you know? You have better tools that could do the job equally good or better, but this tool just works for everything. It's all around, it's great. That's how I feel about this little guy. This is my FK Irons Zion. And this little piece of a machine is dying on me. The question is this. I have tons of machines, tons of them. Coils, rotaries, direct drives, I even have a couple Tabori wands. And I love all my machines. And I choose sometimes to use machines for specific types of tattoos. Traditional, Japanese, portraiture, whatever I'm doing at the time, I pick a machine usually based on that. But this machine works for everything. Now, a lot of people say that like these machines really aren't that great for lining, and they tend not to be. But if you crank it right, if you adjust the speed a certain way, you know, it becomes a machine that can pull a pretty hefty clean line. And that's why this machine's probably dying. I cranked this thing up to 9.5, and these machines really aren't made to go over 6, you know, but doing that, if I want a crispy, clean, fat, buttery, traditional line, I get it at the price of its longevity. Anyways, I have all these machines, so it's like, well, that machine's dying. So what? I got tons of machines. I'll go back to using my coils, you know, or I have a couple direct drives I could use. But again, they all work for specific things. And while I can use coils for doing portraits or fine line script, I generally use them for more like traditional Japanese or just American traditional stuff like that. But again, I can use them for anything. My dilemma is, do I buy another one of these to replace this guy, my workhorse, that I use probably for everything, which I'll go over why this is, you know, why I use this one a lot. Or do I just save the money and use my coils, which I love using too, but use them more often. And man, I gotta say, it's a tough decision. So what we have here are different types of machines. We have a coil right here, we have our direct drive right here, and we have our rotary right here. This is my mic pike liner. I love this machine. I've used it on back pieces, sleeves. I've even used it on like, you know, little bangers, you know. I love this machine for lining. It's the toughest thing that you're probably gonna have to just pushing in that line once and you're done. It's great. That machine is perfect for me, and the reason why I love these machines is because I love having machines that I know how they work, and because of how they work, I know how to rebuild them and fix them. I like that if it breaks down, I can go in and retune it, respring it, re-wrap the coils, whatever I need to do to fix that machine, I could do. It's like working on an engine of an old, you know, Chevy or Ford. You know, a mechanical engine, you know how it works. You can, I mean, if you're mechanically inclined, which I'm not saying I'm completely mechanically inclined, I can just work on at least a Chevy motor. I digress. That machine is something that I can work on if it breaks down. Again, I could tune it, respring it, put a capacitor on it, that kind of thing. With this machine, you can't. I mean, it's wires. You could probably try to rewire it, but once the motor goes, the motor goes. But yeah, I'll get to the downsides of this and the upsides of this here in a minute. The plus side of these machines is, one, I can work on them myself. I know how to tune them, rebuild them, all that sort of thing. Which means they last a whole lot longer. And even without tuning them, they will last a good long time. I've had this machine for years, and I have not had to really change a spring on it or anything the whole time I've had it, and it still runs like a champ. The other perk to these machines is they're sturdy. I've dropped these machines, I can't tell you how many times. And even after dropping it, I might have to move the armature bar back a little bit, but it's sturdy. It's a tank, dude. This thing, you could maybe not throw it across the room, but if you lobbed it gently, into a wall, it should stand the impact. Don't try that. I wouldn't do that. I love this machine too much. For me personally. Now this could be put towards any machine, really. But the other thing about these machines is I am a collector of many things. I collect records, I collect camera gear, I usually collect comic books. I'm a collector. I like collecting. And these machines, to me, and a lot of tattoo artists I know, collect machines like we do art books. These, we may not use them all, but we collect them, and at some point we've used them, and we'll probably go back to using them again. These are very collectible, valuable pieces of equipment, tools that are very useful and become almost like you love them, like I have a hard time parting with my machines, and I'll trade machines every now and again, and like I sold a couple, but I haven't done it without some type of remorse, like, man, I don't really want to get rid of it, but man, I really want that Aaron Kane, and so yeah, they're collectible, and I collect these more than any other machine. Now, rotaries are collectible too, but again, they're so, they do everything, and they're so modern that they're not really a collectible thing. I don't know if it makes sense. With their form factor and how they look, they're not unique in any way. These machines, my Pikes, my Dan Kubins, my Blood Monies, like a lot of my machines I've had, not a lot, but I've had some machines custom built that I've hit them up myself and said, hey, I want this machine built this way, and they do it, and like that's why these mean a lot to me. And even then, a lot of these machines aren't mass produced; they're one-offs. They're built by the builder and sold, and so like that's what makes them more collectible. Whereas rotaries are kind of like manufactured, they make them all the same, and there you go. And you can't really, get custom ones. I mean, you could get like custom skins for us, but I don't know. But I've never done that. Coils are way more collectible, in my opinion. Now, one more important thing, not important thing, but another perk to coils is they are valuable machines. I've seen machines go, like coil machines, go for upwards of $1,000, for just one. Because, again, they are collectible, and you have a bunch of one-offs. Now, with that being said, they're valuable, but they're also reasonably priced. You can get a pretty decent coil machine for half the price of a rotary, and they last way longer. So when you're buying a rotary, you're paying for certain conveniences, which again I'll get to. But again, the perk to coils is you will buy them for a fairly decent price, a reasonable price, and they will hold their value, if not go up in value. You buy a rotary for a lot of fucking money, and it just devalues. It will not go up. It doesn't go up in value, and it doesn't really remain valuable in the first place. You can't sell a rotary for what you bought it for, but you can upward sell a coil for way more than what you bought it for. There's that. Now, the downside to coils. They are a bit heavier, but with that, it gives you better weight distribution. Like for me personally, if you use, metal tubes, it definitely helps with weight distribution. It helps you pull that cleaner line and pack the color, and it keeps you steady hand. So heavier can be a downfall it can be a con for some people, but for me, I like the weight personally. Another, I wouldn't say downfall, I think this is kind of important in the industry itself, is when you clean your machines, you gotta be really careful cleaning coils, because you get maticide on the certain parts of the machine, like the coils or anything like that. It could tend to mess them up. So you can be really careful cleaning your coils. Whereas with a rotary, you just spritz it down with some maticide, wipe it down. You're good to go. You could really just saturate that thing, and it's clean. But that's the downside to the coil machine. And bagging it's usually a good idea. Just bag your machine to keep any kind of like spatter or whatever off of it, and that definitely helps, and I recommend that. But if you don't, and there's a lot of tattooers that don't, which again, that's not cleanliness or what it has nothing to do with. I mean, it's just as clean and just as sterile as anything else, but it's just harder to clean in that situation. Another con of a coil is setup time. It takes you a lot more time to set up a coil machine. You have to turn the vise screw. You got to put the needle in the tube, put the tube in the vise. Figure out your adjustments, your needle depth, all that stuff. It doesn't take a long time, but when you really think about like how long it takes to set up your rotary, you wrap it, you put a cartridge in, you're done. But that's it. It really takes like 2 seconds. And if you're doing a bunch of little bangers back to back to back, like, you're just having a busy day at a convention and all you're doing is little Pinterest walk-ups or whatever, that's so much more efficient. Just popping that cartridge on, tattooing, tearing it down, wiping it down really, or soaking it with maticide, wiping it down, resetting up. Literally you could knock out 10 tattoos in, an hour, On the note of setup and teardown, another thing that can be considered a con with these machines is accessories. With a rotary, you just buy the rotary. Now, you could buy a battery pack for it, and you got to buy cartridges, obviously, but that's really all you need. If you have an RCA cable, this works. With a rotary, you have to buy needles and tubes, and not just one. You have to buy several tubes, like a lot. And you can use disposables and all that stuff, but you still have to buy a bunch of tubes. You got to buy rubber bands. You got to buy grommets. You got to buy like all these other little accessories for the tattoo machine because you want to change your grommets, your rubber bands out constantly. But there are accessories needed for a coil. Now, even when you buy all those accessories, it's still cheaper than buying a rotary. Now, on the rotary side, the perks of this little guy is, all around convenience. If I'm going to a convention or a guest spot, it is really easy just to pack this thing and pack a couple little boxes of cartridges, and I can get on a flight, and it takes less space. Granted, I don't fly, so it doesn't matter. I drive everywhere I go, so I can bring whatever the hell I want and not worry about it. But still, the convenience of being able to pack this away with a couple boxes of cartridges and just travel easily and lightly, it's hard to top that. That's a big deal. Another thing is less vibration. These things do not vibrate like a coil machine. It's literally like you barely feel any type of movement, when you're using the machine. And even when I have this thing turned up to like 9.5, I still barely feel any kind of, rattling or movement in it. And again, some people like that vibration and that hefty, just like you're working a jackhammer kind of thing, which I kind of like using a machine that's going to be loud and it's working, it's running. And that's the other thing. These things are not loud. They are quiet. They are so quiet. And that, to an extent, kind of bothers me too because, man, nothing to me feels more comfortable than walking into a shop and just hearing machines buzzing. Man, I love that. That's nostalgia for me. Every shop I worked in back in the day when I first started, I was like, you walk in and it's just buzzing. It made the shop sound alive. You walk into a shop with a bunch of these things just maybe humming, it sounds like you're in a dentist's office. And I don't like dentists. And I don't want to feel like I'm working in a dentist's office. I'd rather feel like I'm working in a machine shop. That's just me. Another thing about these things, and now people are making this change to coils as well, but you can go cordless with these. I have battery packs for these, and that's also part of the travel thing, and the convenience of having it and going somewhere. It's just so compact. It's so contained. And I can just put a battery on that and go, but a clip cord, again, putting a clip cord on a machine's not that difficult either. So this is all preference, by the way, but that's a preference. And I think one of the final things I like about this is if when I switch from a liner to a shader on this, it's just a couple of clicks, to change my needle depth. If I'm doing some script and I need a tight 3, I just float my needle. If I'm doing a black and gray portrait and I want some soft shading and I'm using a mag, I just bring my needle in, to get those smooth blends. Another perk to these is you could change the needle stroke as well, how hard it hits, that kind of thing, You got little clicks up here, you click it, and you get, your needle. Or you can adjust your stroke. So that's another very big plus of this. Now, the downsides to this, and I mentioned these just a minute ago with the coils, but when these are dead, That's it. You gotta buy a new one. The motors in these are built tough, but they do die, and they're not motors you can work on. So that kind of sucks. And going back to earlier, another con is these are not cheap. They're very, very pricey machines. And I mean, the value-wise, it's worth it because of what they offer and what they do. But again, it doesn't hold its value. It's not worth any more if you want to resell it. It's worth the same. And I mean, that's just the way it is. Another thing that I mentioned earlier, this goes back to why this machine's dying on me. These are not the greatest for putting in lines. I mean, if you're doing some script or some fine line stuff, or you're maybe using a 7 tops, you can put in a decent line. But if you're working on like fleshier areas and like, stomach, stuff like that, you're gonna have difficulty no matter what, needle you're using, because it's just a pain. It grabs. It's a pain in the ass. But if you want to pull fatter lines, you really gotta make this thing hit hard. You gotta turn it up, and that's, again, I run this pretty high, like way higher than it should be ran, and I knew that if I did that, it's gonna quicker than normal, it's gonna run down the life of this machine, and it did. Do I regret it? No, because I got a lot of cool, clean lines out of this machine that I wouldn't have got if I ran it at the time, if I ran it at the desired voltage. Now it's kicking me in the ass now because, again, I'm in the debate of whether do I want to get another one or do I just want to move on to my coils and stick with those. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend putting in thick lines with this unless you want to bump up that voltage and risk this thing dying on you sooner than it should. Now, other machines that are honorable mentions is the direct drive. These things are amazing, and I use them for certain things, like, you can use it for stipple work. You could use it for a lot of black and gray, like portraits, because the perk of these is, like, there is no give with these. No give at all. Like, if it's going to drive that needle in, it's going to drive that needle in. It's not going to have any kind of, it's not going to give you any resistance. It's just in, Have you ever seen The Warrior with Tom Hardy? Yeah, where he just goes into the ring and just pounces on that guy once and then walks out like it's no big deal. That's this machine. It's just, it goes in, punches it in, walks out. No mercy. This is the no mercy machine. Another honorable mention, and probably one of the best machines to ever grace the tattoo community, is Dan Kubin Sidewinders. Now, these machines are expensive, but these are one of those machines that not only is it like sturdy and a collectible, but it is valuable. Like, people will buy these up. And this is shitty, by the way. Stop doing this. They will buy these up when Kubin drops these for the regular price and then upsell them all. Like, it's mean. Stop doing that. Just, stop being greedy, you assholes. Just buy fucking one and use it. But this machine's probably more relatable to the Warrior scenario. This thing, it has give. It really does. But man, if it punches in a line, it punches in a line. Like, that line ain't going nowhere. And I will say the drawback to this is you gotta know how to use the machine to use this machine. This isn't like a fucking plug and play, like you get this machine, you're good to go. You have to know how to tattoo, like know how to run a machine. This is no joke. You could blow out people's lines, you could chew up some skin. I mean, these are heavy hitter machines. These are machines for people that like know how to tattoo. Not to toot my own horn, but you know what I mean. Like if you're a tattooer, you can use this machine. And they're like, this is probably one of my favorite machines. So this is a V2. This is one of the early models, but I still love this machine to this day. I'm still trying to get my hands on my V3R, but I'm working on that. I mean, it's just a perfect machine. Like there's nothing I could complain about this machine. It's just perfect. Like I love this machine so much. It's funny that I'm having this dilemma because I remember when rotaries first kind of hit the streets. Well, not first, they've been around way longer than I've been tattooing, but not way longer. But when they became more popular amongst the mainstream tattooers, you got your Zions and all that stuff. I was totally against it. I was like, man, I like my coils. I'm, as they say, loyal to the coil. I know. But I was like, coils were the things that I loved working with. I knew them. I knew how to work with them. I knew how to rebuild them. It just worked for me. Rotaries just didn't really appeal to me. I had the same problem when I went from paper to an iPad. But I still draw on paper too. It doesn't matter. But I still have the same problem. It's that advancement technology that always gets a lot of tattooers because it's like, man, we're just kind of stuck in our ways sometimes, and we just want that comfort of knowing that, hey, I can fix this. These machines are just tried and true. Since this time, they've been around forever. They're good to go. But again, the convenience of a rotary is conveniences. It works out. So I finally got on board and I used it, and I've had several. And I mean, this is like my third one. I've had 3 of these, and I've never complained about them. I've liked using them the whole time. Like they're versatile machines, so I can't complain about that. But it took me forever to get on board with using them. So, and the weird thing is, I work in a primarily traditional street shop, and a lot of the artists here don't really use rotaries. Now we've had, I have a couple of artist friends here that kind of, they're old school artists, and they kind of switched over to the rotary. Not switched over fully, but they use the rotary for some things more often than they did before. But a lot of the artists here use coils. And they have good reasons why. And I mean, they're valid reasons. And there's valid reasons why they don't use rotaries. But I mean, you could really go either way with rotaries or coils or direct drives or hybrids or whatever. But it really is your preference. And just like any other tool, a rotary is just another tool. You have it in your toolkit, you pull it out when you need it, and you may use it more often than any of your other tools, because it gets the jobs done. But sometimes if that tool is really expensive and you have other tools that could do that job, do you want to invest in that expensive tool again? Do you want to, knowing what you know about that tool, do you really want to just fork over that money? Especially, right now when, things are really expensive and kind of out of people's budgets nowadays. So that's my dilemma. Do I buy another one of these and keep things a little more easy? Or do I just save my money and keep using my coils? Hell, I could not spend the money on this and get me that Dan Kubin V3R that I want really bad, which is pretty much the same price, and that V3R will last me forever. I mean, forever. And man, that's tough. That's not a bad idea. I might just skip these all together and go for that one machine. You see the problem I'm dealing with. This is insane. It's insane. So let me know in the comments down below if I should, again, buy one of these, save the money, keep using the machines I already have, or buy that sweet, sweet V3R. Man, the more I say buy that V3R, the more it sounds like it should happen. Like am I hypnotizing myself into buying the machine? I feel like it should happen. But yeah, let me know in the comments, and like always, please like and subscribe if you want to hear more tattoo news, shenanigans, reviews, and rants about, the job and career that I love more than anything. So, until next time, Remember to tip.